In the ball game, they handed to Corey McGann, who makes a cut. First down. Spins and scores. Blake Corum puts Michigan on top in overtime. Williams in motion, low snap. Melrose stopped. Michigan makes a stand and comes up with a milestone playoff victory.
This was 6 points. Cam snap to Penix. Play fake. Penix holds, fires, fastball caught. J-Mac
to advance to the national championship game. Ewers lobs it up, and it is incomplete.
But let's jump to the most important part. Start YouTube clip now. Welcome in, YouTube fans. We are going to preview the College Football National Championship. This is what you're here for. We are excited for it. We have been waiting all year. Was it the two teams that we thought would be here? Maybe JP can say yes, but I think the rest of us aren't shocked by the Michigan appearance. Let's lead it off with Jake. Jake will take us through, give us your pick as well. We'll go round horn style to finalize 2023 into 2024 college football.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic national championship game for a multitude of reasons. Number one, I think we can all agree it's kind of a refresher to not see an SEC team in there, just being from the Midwest. Now, you might have a lot of people from the South kind of check out and roll their eyes when they see these two teams, but I think this is an awesome matchup. I would say that I said it last week, and I kind of compared Washington to TCU, but I think Washington's much better, but I want to compare Washington to them like they're kind of an underdog. I mean, they really are. They don't recruit on the same level as Michigan or Alabama or even Texas for that instance, but this is a team that I think has – somebody told me 9 6-year guys. They have a Heisman caliber quarterback. They have a receiver room that is the best in the country at this point. I don't even think there's an argument there. And they're going to be playing a team that looks almost I don't want to say unbeatable, but Michigan proved that they can make mistakes and still kind of put you in that stranglehold or that snake bite or whatever they like to say it. And that's how they kind of play football. So both of these teams are going to try to stick to their styles of play, and I'm interested to see who can do it the best. I think Washington has a really good recipe for success just because of you have the offensive tackles who are NFL caliber guys. You have a ton of receivers that are NFL caliber, and you have a quarterback that JP said gets the ball out faster than anybody else. Like, if you're going to defeat a pass rush and a defense in Michigan, who's number one in the country in pass efficiency on the defensive side of the ball, that's how you beat it. It's also a team that can beat Michigan by only running for 40 yards like they did against Texas. They don't run the ball super well. I think Dylan Johnson's hurt. I think it's fluky. They say he's going to play. I don't buy it. I'm sure he'll probably give it a go. So super interested to see how they can defeat this world-beating defense in Michigan. On the other side, what kind of game are we going to get from J.J. McCarthy? Like we said, I like Washington's defensive line. I like their edges with, like, I think it's Trice. I think he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love the secondary for them, but I don't think they're playing a receiving
Do they have
core.
to? Do you have to?
Yeah, no. I don't think they're playing a receiving core that's, of Ohio State, of Washington for even instance. So two completely different style of teams, and I couldn't picture a better matchup, honestly, for the national title in Houston on Monday. If I had to give you a pick, I'm just going to stick with the team that I've been backing all year up until last week. I'm going to take Michigan. I think that this defense is too good. I think defense translates into championships. I love Washington and what they've done. I've kind of doubted them all year, but I think they're going to slow the game down. I don't think they're going to make the mistakes like they did last week. And I think Michael Penix is going to have to play perfect 2 weeks in a row. And I think that's just so hard to do. I think he's really talented, but I just think it's so hard to do.
I love letting you go first because it just starts us off right. But damn, you're taking a lot of my thoughts because it's exactly right. You were asking a ton from Michael Penix to give you a similar style performance against a 10 times better secondary. I'll say it. Michigan's secondary is going to be 10 times better than what you saw against Texas. They're going to be more prepared. It's a better coach team, and they're deeper. It's the same thing I told you last week. That's why they were going to take down Alabama when everybody was on the other side of the game. Everybody thought Alabama, the SEC, was too big. Michigan hadn't played anybody. Dude, this defense is for real. That up front, they are for real. If anybody's going to wreak havoc against the number one offensive line in the country, it's going to be Michigan. and they proved a little bit of it last week. They're going to cause problems. On the other side, I have to look at J.J. McCarthy. I think they can control the game. I know, JP, you had already talked about Donovan Edwards not being existent in the Rose Bowl. I think he'll have to be existent in this. To keep Washington off the field on offense, you're doing yourself a massive favor. So I think you're going to have to see a heavy dose of Corum and Edwards, and then McCarthy's got to make plays with his legs. I think they can throw the ball downfield too. I saw a lot of holes in Washington's defensive backs last week, especially towards the end of the game. They gave up some big plays. If they give those up against Michigan, they're going to make them pay for it even more than Texas did. And it's the chalk thing to say, but whoever forces turnovers is going to find themselves in a good spot as well. JP.
I look at this one and I see a team that has really fought adversity for most of the year that they created on themselves. That's Michigan. And then I see a team that was just kind of like, they'll figure it out. They're pretty good, but they're not going to be much. So I saw high expectations with an adversity they created by themselves, and I saw low expectations from the public on a group that was super talented enough to win a national title, win the Pac-12. Which one do you think has more pressure on it right now? I'd say Michigan does. Does that even mean anything to them? Does it even affect how they're acting? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not, honestly.
I would say that they had more pressure last week just to get over the hump
agreed.
of winning that semifinal game.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good point because not a lot of people picked them. Even if people didn't pick them, if they lost that one, they were going to get ripped apart by the media. Like, oh, they can't win the big one. See, they're phonies, blah, blah, blah. I think that was always going to be a BS take, but it's really a BS take when they go out and win the football game. For me, Michigan, Parks, you hit it on the head. Like, you're going to have to control this football game, whether your defense is good or not, whether that offensive line can deal with your pass rush or not, whether your DBs are better than what Texas gave or not. You're going to have to control the game because I just think this set of receivers, and then now you add another weapon into it, 4 guys that are constantly finding ways to get open, 4 headsy people who have absolute crazy chemistry with one of the best quarterbacks in the country, who puts the ball on a dime at all times, on time, on spot. It's going to be very hard. And if you decide that you want to control the football game and keep your defense rested, that's probably the best way to go. But if you want to get in a shootout, I don't love your chances. And I know Washington's had their problems defensively, but what they have been is opportunistic. They've done the thing they've needed to, and it's absolutely necessary that they have to make a play or they have to get a stop. They've done it for the most part. Where you're going to see the difference is if Michigan slows down, Washington's fine with that. Washington can slow that offense down. And I'm not saying to a crawl. I'm saying they can take their time and set things up, milk the clock down under 10, 15 seconds each snap and just get set up and run the right play, right? Like, we don't have to be high flying, fast moving Oregon pace or anything like that, but we can still attack you and create big plays off of everything. So for me, it's just Penix had the opportunity to stay clean, stay upright, and just get the ball to his playmakers, because if he does have that time, I don't care what defense they're playing. I think this is a situation this is what's taking me back to. How good were the defenses that Joe Burrow played? Pretty damn good. How good was that offense? A lot better. This is college football. If an elite offense meets an elite defense, I feel like majority of the time the elite offense comes out on top. Look at Alabama in 2020. That was an elite offense. They lit everybody up. Like, it's just one of those situations. And so I lean with the elite offense in this situation. Flip side, JJ doesn't have to be a world beater either. Like, if we could get another 220, 3 touchdown, no interceptions, they're probably winning this football game. If Corum goes for 120, which is extremely possible, by the way, and Edwards grabs 80, they're probably winning this football game. Washington's going to have to be opportunistic, mistake-free, and I don't want to make it sound like they're a massive underdog and they just need everything to go right for them to win. But it kind of feels that way in some spots. But I'm not in a spot where I'm picking against them. I'll take the 4.5. I said it last week. 4.5 was too many when they played Texas. It was going to be that close. Take the 4.5 again. It's going to be within 3. I don't care. This number probably I could see under just with pace of play. Michigan, you don't want to get a shootout with them. Mistake-free wins this one. Both teams made a ton of mistakes, found ways to win football games last week. Can't do it this week.
Fantastic. Let's go down to Reese. Reese, what do you see on the national title game?
I like a lot of what you guys are all saying. I mean, it's going to be such a good football game. It's like JP saying, are you going to trust an elite offense or an elite defense? I think Washington's like the number 1 pass offense. I think Michigan's the number 2 pass defense. What is Michigan going to be able to do? Because JP just mentioned how Penix was making his adjustments, calling hot routes, and getting when they bring in pressure, just calling it to guys right away, getting it to them even when the pressure was brought. So what is Michigan going to be able to disguise stuff against him? Pre-snap, post-snap reads to get him to make bad decisions, maybe turn that ball over. And then also, what are they going to do to get Dylan Johnson involved? Because he wasn't really existent in that Sugar Bowl game. I think he only rushed for like 40 yards and he had 20-some runs. So he wasn't really a factor. It's going to be what can they do to get him involved. Also, it's just that defensive line was stout. Michigan's was just stout against Alabama. And then Alabama goes and makes adjustments in the second half. So I think Washington will be able to learn from that as well. I think they'll be able to get the ball out of Penix's hands really fast. And then on the flip side, too, you still got Washington's defense. You still got, like you mentioned before, Braylon Trice is a hell of a defensive end. You still got Jabbar Muhammad, who's a hell of a defensive back, who had some very big games this year. You still got some disruptors on the defense who they're not names that everybody knows, but when the moment comes to it, they can be guys that can make plays. And then when you're looking at Michigan offensively, yeah, JJ doesn't need to be the guy. He's not going to put up numbers like Penix, but if he can just be a dependable guy back there and be serviceable and just not turn that ball over, yeah, Michigan's got a shot at this thing. But I lean with JP. I just can't go away from a team that's going to be able to put up points. I think they'll be able to. And like I mentioned before, even if they get behind, if they can get behind by 2 scores, I don't think Michigan has such a solid offense that they're going to be able to score consistently. I think Washington can get stops, and then offense can score, even if they're down 10 or they're down 14, 2 scores, or whatever it is. They can find a way to keep themselves this game, especially if it's late, and make something interesting. I think 4.5 is way too much, and I also lean Washington to win this thing too. I'd rather see them. Like I mentioned before a couple weeks ago, I hate Michigan. You're not America's team. Shut up, Jim. I can't. I'm not going to pick you guys. Give me the Huskies. Kalen DeBoer, Coach of the Year. Let's go 50-0 Huskies.
Okay, so that wraps up the previews. I will give my pick, and good news, Jake. We're gonna make it a 2-2 split here. I have Michigan.
Right.
I think I was the only one
Go,
that had
JP.
Michigan and Washington in the national title. I think Michigan is just too deep this year, man. They're the team of destiny. They caused it on themselves for everybody to hate them, but they're just too talented at all spots, on defense especially. I know I've said it 1,000 times, but I cannot tell you how important it is to be that deep. They can just run guys out there. I think if they can control the clock, which I said is the main point, and get up 7-10 points, they just have to limit big plays downfield. And I think they have better suited defensive backs than anything Washington has faced the entire year to do so. So give me Michigan. I think they cover and win the national title.
I think it's just for me, with Washington's stat of 10 straight wins of single digits, like Michigan's the last team that you want to play single digits to. I think that it's just a bad spot for them, being Michigan can, if there's 6 minutes left on the clock with the ball in their hands and they're up 3, I think they can run up the clock if they really need to, or move it down the field and kind of put them in that stranglehold like I talked about. But I mean, yeah, I really have no gripe with either one of these teams winning. I really don't. I feel like that might be a first time for me in a championship in a while. I feel like I favored somebody, but I would really be happy with either or. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I have one more thing to add, just preview wise. We're talking about how Washington's going to go see the best secondary they've seen all year. Fine. That's fine. I agree. 100% I agree. But on the flip side, if Michigan's receivers aren't as elite as we think, or as they've been made out to be, as we've also noted, Washington's coming off the biggest challenge they've faced yet on 3 very talented with Whittington, Mitchell, and Worthy. Now, Worthy wasn't probably 100% healthy, but don't you think that this defensive backfield is going to look a little bit better when they are playing a team that they know doesn't scheme guys open? They are consistently hitting 35, 40-yard bombs downfield. They're going to throw 6 or 7 in the box. And hell, McCarthy, if you want to start, throwing the ball downfield and having one-on-ones, who's your one-on-one guy? Because we got a DB that can lock him down who's bigger in size. Like, that's my whole thing with it, is like, if we're going to go one way, It might be,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, like, if it's one way, if we're calling it one way, like this is the best secondary, this elite group of receivers. Let's call it the other way, where this DB group just faced the biggest test they've had all year outside of Oregon's guys, who are very talented as well. Hey, like, you played pretty well last week. I'm not saying you played great. Like, you did fine, better than your average, I'd say. Now you can really lock down some dudes this week because they are not as talented as what you just saw.
You got anything, Shafe? It sounded like a breath
No,
that you were going to say.
I was thinking
It's
about
not a
it,
rebuttal, but it's just, we
No.
got to see both sides of the mirror.
Do we have anybody else to put a bow on it, or I have one more thing before we get out of
No,
here?
you
Kinda
tie the
not-
bow on it.
Sure, because we got time. We made our picks and everything, and I was like,
wait.
this has been actually. Sorry, Reese, am I cutting you off here?
But yeah,
No, I'll say I mean I meant to say something before too, but I don't know if you can hear this. But this is Reese patting himself on the back because he knew there was going to be an SEC national champion this year.
Oh yeah,
Thank you very much. Good job,
there you
Reese.
go.
That's a great one.
Get-
That's a great one.
Get that
Knew
one.
it!
And Parks was the only one to get the graphic right for the.
You got it
for the
100%. Yeah.